Hi friends, welcome back to the Hangout. It's Syd. I am so excited to introduce this week's guest, Kevin Quinn, on the show. A lot of you may know him from A Week Away, which was released on Netflix last year. He recently released his debut EP called It's About Time. Of course, we dive into it in this episode, as well as talk about his journey with faith and how it's kind of incorporated in his music as well. We talk about all things music, as one does in this Hangout podcast, and we just have a good time. We end the episode off with a rapid fire as well, and he shares some of his musical inspirations. He's been on tour recently for the Winter Jam and has been able to perform live and meet some of you guys again. I'm so excited for this episode. I hope you guys enjoy. Let's get right in. This is Kevin Quinn on the Hangout. Hi, friends. Welcome back to the Hangout. I am so excited to introduce our guest for this week's episode, Kevin Quinn. You might know him from A Week Away, from Netflix's movie last year, which was released. He also dropped his debut EP, It's About Time, which I will say is incredible. I've been bopping to it for the last, I don't know how many weeks at this point. But let's welcome Kevin to the show.
Hey, thanks everyone. Thank you, Syd. I'm so happy you like the EP. Thanks for listening.
It is so good. We'll dive into it later in the show. But first off, what's your ideal hangout? What is your typical sort of ideal chill day look like?
Definitely getting outside and just having a cup of coffee or lunch. I'm big on restaurants and food, and I also live in a neighborhood in Los Angeles that has a lot to offer, which is awesome. There's this neighborhood called Larchmont Village that is pretty much like centric to the neighborhood that I live in. I live in Hancock Park. And, you know, I could walk or drive there, and there's great coffee shops. There's like a great Greek restaurant. There is like a poke place that I enjoy.
Love poke.
It's it's so good. But yeah, there's just a lot of like great spots. And so if ever I want to meet up with a friend or just get a cup of coffee with someone, I always toss up Larchmont Village as an option.
That's awesome. I feel like LA does have some of the best food around the country and the continent as well.
They do. It's crazy. But you know, so I grew up in Chicago, and I have to say Chicago might even have better food than LA.
Ooh, wait, is Chicago the place that has the pizza? That's like deep dish pizza?
Yep.
Okay.
I don't know why. They have a lot of these like Michelin. It's very New York.
Michelin star. Yeah.
Yeah. So their food scene is just so great. Like there's this one place called Geha's, which is fondue, like Spanish fondue, and they have this like romance acoustic guitar player always playing. What else? There's this great Greek place called the Athenian Room that I grew up going to in Lincoln Park, and they make like the best chicken. It's like chicken Vesuvius or something. It's just like
my mouth is watering.
It's so good. Like it's just doused in vinegar and those thick cut, you know, potato fries.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, if you're ever in Chicago, go check that place out.
I feel like I have to now. We're also filming this episode around lunchtime, so I'm a little bit hungry and I'm ready to maybe grab a pizza after this.
Same. I'm so down.
Okay, we got to talk about the EP. Oh my goodness. It's About Time. Take me through, I guess, the title track of the song of the EP. Did you go through some sort of epiphany, or were you like, I just gotta like create all this music and put out this EP? How did that concept sort of come together?
Yeah, so I got into a writing room that my label had set up. It was myself, a producer writer named Jordan Sapp, who's excuse me, done a little bit with like, you know, Jason Derulo, this guy Torrin Wells, who's kind of like a pop inspirational artist who I'm actually on tour with right now. And then Walker Hayes, who's a kind of like a country artist, but he's got like a whole swag, kind of like hip hop country. It's weird. Have you heard that song Fancy Like? Yeah, we fancy like Applebee's on a late night. Oreo shake and When
Maybe if I heard, yeah, I'm not sure.
yeah,
Maybe I have.
it was a pretty big song last year.
Yeah.
So like I think he was like performing at the Chiefs Bengals game or something for their halftime.
Nice.
He's like he got huge with that song. He was already pretty big, but
Yeah.
um, so anyway, it was me, Walker, Jordan in this room, and basically the conversation came up like, what do we write about and what's been relevant. And I know that we were all kind of going through our own relationship with mortality.
Mm.
And I think it was because we had all been through something at that point related to grief or like loss. One of my friends passed away at a young age, and his name came up in the writing room. And then I think Walker had also dealt with some stuff in his personal life regarding loss. And so it just became a really relevant conversation topic, which is, how do we take kind of a pretty hefty subject matter and turn it around into something positive, something anthemic or inspirational. So this whole concept, which I feel was spearheaded by Walker, was kind of like, at the end of the day, it's really about time and how you spend it. And time is something that is pretty fleeting in essence, and we tend to take it for granted, because we just take it as a given. And especially when we settle into the daily routine of life, or, the blessings that we've been given to have that time, we tend to forget about it in an almost oxymoronic kind of way.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where the inception of the song came from, which is, the whole carpe diem, seize the day, but this time more of a spin about, it's literally about time itself and how you choose to spend it, every hour, every minute, and how really each minute is a blessing, and we should take the time to acknowledge that. And then I should also say we had this really talented writer who's been in the game for a minute, Paul Duncan. We were trying to make some lyric changes to make the song more cohesive when we decided to cut it. And we brought Paul Duncan in, and we just had like this, I think like a 6-hour Zoom session in the middle of the night. And he was able to like tweak the lyrics a bit to give it a more cohesive storyline. So then we added him as a writer, and then we cut it, and that's the song that you hear.
I heard 6-hour Zoom session and I was like, whoa, that's a lot of time to kind of finesse the song and everything.
Yeah, and what's crazy is we were only trying to finesse like 3 or 4 lines, but that's how tedious.
Wow.
It's just, you have to get the perfect lyric. If you want good songwriting, you have to take the time to put in that, put in the effort to get that perfect lyric. And it's not easy. It never comes easy.
Yeah.
So,
I think it's like writing a short film, because obviously if compared to like writing a feature film, you have like the given 2 hours or maybe like so many 100 pages to go through. But then if you're writing a song instead of like a musical, you're writing like a 3-minute little cohesive poem. And to make sure you get every single point across in that small amount of time is crazy. So I admire that so much.
It's so funny. So my music manager is also a film producer, ironically. So
Nice.
he works in music, but he also dabbles in, film production and screenwriting. Yeah. And he put it to me he made a pretty good point, which was, he basically said, I was like, how'd you get into film production if you're really a music guy? And he said, well, if I can, write and produce a 3.5-minute song without moving images and just audio, then why can't I create a 90-minute song with moving images? And
that's crazy.
He kind of compared, screenwriting with film to really, the product is the song, the product is the movie, that's the asset. So he's like, I just admired his mentality. Like, if I can write a song, why can't I write a 1.5-hour movie? It's kind of the same thing.
That's
and
so
I've taken that myself. Like, I'm trying to dabble into screenwriting, and I'm like, I can write songs, so why can't I write a movie?
100%. Yeah, I actually work in the film industry too. I work as a still photographer. And so it's kind of interesting of how you kind of put that into perspective, because I'm telling stories with artists and guests like you guys, and then I go on to set and I take still images and try to capture and tell the story of the film in like one image. And so that's so interesting to put that on perspective because I never thought of it like that.
Yeah, I didn't realize you were a still photographer on set. I
Yeah,
feel like,
yeah.
like just because I've been on those sets and I've seen the work that they do, that you guys do,
Mhm.
it's a tough job, telling that story and trying to get the pieces
Yeah.
together to tell that story. I feel like on-set photographers definitely have their work cut out. You guys have your work cut out for you.
Yeah, it's a crazy industry, I will say, and the music one is just as crazy. I think everything creative, just being a creative too, you're just always running through this idea, that idea. How are you going to make it better? Um, yeah, honestly, I
Do you
think also,
ever, I was just gonna say, do you ever shoot stuff like on stages or music, like live music?
yeah,
So
that's actually how I got started. I actually started as a concert photographer, and then that kind of translated into music videos and then short films, and now I'm working on like features and stuff too, which has been a really cool journey because I actually don't have like a formal photography background either. Um, so yeah.
how long have you been doing that? Like, when did you start with concerts and live?
Concerts, maybe like 3, 4 years ago. I studied like radio, and that's kind of how the podcast sort of blossomed too, because I have such a big music background. And I think it also, I was going to ask you the same thing, but for you, did you kind of grow up with music around the church? Because I kind of grew up. That's kind of how I kind of was introduced to music, was going to church and listening to worship every single Sunday. And just, I think that was probably one of my favorite parts.
You'd think for the music that I'm making that the answer would be yes, but it's not. It's definitely, I
Really?
have to say, actually, it's a no on that.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
for me, music and church were always pretty separate. I mean,
Whoa.
if I ever went to church, then of course I hear like the guitars that they bring in to sing a worship song or
Yeah.
choir. And I remember in preschool there was this, like in-house church guitarist who would come and every Tuesday, teach us chords and stuff just for fun. So
That's so
it's not like
cool.
I wasn't exposed to music at church, but my parents pulled me out of church when I was
Mm.
maybe 5 or 6. Not church, Sunday school, I should say.
Yeah,
And the reason being, in retrospect, that they didn't want to force any kind of ideals or faith on me unless I wanted to find that later in life myself. So they weren't even completely sure if I was going to find that, but they were like,
wow.
you deserve to form your own opinions somewhere down the road when you're actually able to do so. And
Yeah,
I kind of respect that decision.
yeah,
As an adult now, I'm like, maybe I would do the same thing because it just so happened to work out that I really did rediscover and find my faith. And I'm like, my testimony and my faith journey might not have been the same and as powerful. And it just came to me at the right timing, God's timing.
totally.
And I'm like, if that was forced on me, would my relationship with faith actually be a little bit different or weaker than it is now? There's just something so powerful about searching for these, existential questions and answers, and then finding them in the place that you least expect it. So for
100%.
me, I wouldn't take that back. I'm glad they pulled me out because for some reason I was supposed to be out of Sunday school. I was supposed to find my faith myself because at the end of the day, that has made my faith stronger than anything, finding it at 21, 22 when I needed it most.
100%. Wow, I like resonate so much with that because I feel like so many people are forced or feel that they're forced into going to church, and then they kind of lose their faith or they kind of lose track of all of that because it doesn't seem as genuine as you going to look for it for yourself and
I
having those own self discoveries.
Yep, I completely agree. And hey, I've heard those stories. I mean, I can tell you plenty of stories of my friends or peers who have had that situation. And I think a
Mhm.
lot of it is circumstantial. If you've just grown up, it's something that you've always known and that you just always did it. And that was the way it is. Of course, at some point you may question it.
Mhm.
Um, but that's why my situation in particular, I'm just glad it worked out that way because while I did lose my faith for a bit and have to rediscover it, I just think the rediscovery itself was the most powerful thing I could have gone through. So I'm grateful for that.
100%. I think you also mentioned how you kind of in previous interviews you mentioned how you kind of lost your faith and then kind of came back to it when A Week Away kind of came around too. How did that all sort of tie in for you?
The It's a complex answer, but the short answer is I was going through some very, very difficult challenges in
Mm,
my personal life leading up to a week away. I had mentioned grief and loss, but it was beyond that. It was stuff that I was dealing with myself that I didn't have the tools to deal with or to
mm,
understand exactly what was happening with me. Some health issues in particular. So, when I tried to do what I always do and just put all my creative energy, all my creative expression and all those troubles into my work, it just so happened that I got this audition for a Christian musical, uh, this indie film that wasn't even with Netflix at the time. It was just,
yeah.
a one-off audition. I was like, what if I could take all this stuff that I'm dealing with and put it into this character? Because the breakdown says that he's broken. He's lost his parents to a car crash. He has lost his faith. And it just felt like I am this guy. I am this
Yeah.
character right now in this place and time. So usually I try to develop a character that has certain quirks or certain attributes because I'm creating a character. And I thought, what if I just go in for this character as me and representative of everything that I'm going through? Could that translate into this character and work for the project? So originally I had an audition for the role of Sean, which is kind of like the bad guy, bad boy camp guy, whatever it is. And I took a slightly varied version of that character I'm telling you about here. And I ended up booking that role, but I read the script when I finally got my hands on a script, and I said, I don't think this is the right role.
Mhm.
I keep gravitating towards this other character's lines, this guy Will. So I called my manager and went in again for the audition and auditioned for Will, and just took everything that I was dealing with, and it just worked perfectly for this character. And
Yeah.
that's when I got the role. So, I think it was just me going through all these difficulties in my personal life and funneling them into my work. Uh, that it came about at the perfect time, and it was meant to be. And not to mention there were some other really great things that happened on set that I just felt this whole thing is being orchestrated by something bigger, because the timing of this is too perfect.
Right.
I no longer believe in coincidences. And the project really did change my life in a lot of ways that I think, if you're just a viewer, you might not realize unless you heard the whole story from me.
That's crazy. I feel like I just got shivers throughout that whole story because it's like, yeah, like sometimes there's so many things that are like unexplainable that you can't even put words to, and you're just like yeah, I'm like speechless because it's crazy that you like yeah, I have no words. It's crazy how stuff just happens and you know that it could be something bigger than
And
what
a
you're
lot of the times, I agree. And a lot of the times when that kind of stuff just happens and like the bigger picture comes into play, we don't really notice it.
Mhm.
If we're not really paying attention to it, then we just walk in the path and we're like, oh, this is great, like this worked out. And oh, isn't that funny that that worked out the way it did, blah, blah, blah. But the key to like true understanding, and for me, where that's where faith comes in, is really you're always walking the path. So it's up to you whether or not you take the time to recognize and acknowledge the path. Like that
Mhm.
is God to me, or the higher power, whatever you call it. Um, so for me, it's like it's really up to you if you want to know what's going on.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, that's my best metaphor for walking the path, and
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah. It's really great. And I going back to your music too, I think that's why it resonates and it's also so much more powerful than just like any other like say pop song or whatever, because there is the deeper level if you want to believe and listen to the message that you're conveying in your lyrics. Um I guess take me back to like how did you kind of find your voice with music and songwriting, because you yeah wrote all the songs on this EP as well, and yeah.
It took a while. So before this EP, I had actually written another EP and put out like an independent EP that in retrospect was pretty much what I was going through at the time. But not representative of the music that I truly wanted to make.
Mm.
And now I feel like I am making the music that I truly wanted to make. So, I probably wrote over 100 songs in that time of just developing my songwriting skills, maybe 4 years from the time I was, 19 to 23, and then Capitol came on board. And so finding my voice and my sound was a process, just like every other artist. But once I had found it and was able to experiment with it, while still keeping true to what I knew was working. That was very, very freeing creatively for me. And so I feel like this EP is the first project that I'm so pleased with, because it is absolutely representative of the music that I want to make and have always wanted to make, and for longevity, for the long term. So, really this EP is a starting point and a basis for the music that I'm going to make going forward. And I'm just grateful for that, because, it took a while to find my voice, but when I finally found it, and seeing the fans connect with it, whereas they, I don't know if they may have connected as much with the first EP. I don't even know if I connected with the first EP as much. But seeing the response to it has made me feel like, all right, I'm making the music that I'm supposed to be making, because they love it too.
That's amazing. And I can like feel the passion, like you just talking about your music, like I can feel your passion through the screen, which is crazy enough. And you're also meeting fans and going on tour too right now with the Winter Jam. How has it been getting to hear, I guess, directly from the fans that you get to meet every single night you get to perform live for them?
They love it. The energy is crazy at those shows. You'd be surprised. We're playing arenas. So Winter Jam as a tour has been going for, I think, like over 20 years. So obviously they have a pretty big fan base. But yeah, every arena we play, I just walk out on stage and start singing. And lately, the fans have been rushing the stage and taking videos, which is crazy. But yeah, they're just super excited, and it's working. Yeah. And I just love the themes of the EP, like there's so many themes on this EP about love and light and good. And it's so refreshing to me, because even the EP that I wrote before this, the independent EP, the lead single on that EP was called Out of the Cold. And I'm like, this is so representative of the journey and the path that I've walked since then, that my lead single on this previous EP was Out of the Cold. And then, the first track you hear on this new EP is Wildfire, like the juxtaposition of cold, heat, fire.
Yeah.
And to me, it's just so representative right off that first track of the kind of music that you're going to hear. I just wanted it to be positive, uplifting, because we need more music like that.
Yeah.
That was my mentality behind it.
Do you feel that when you write these projects, that they are just like a little capsule or like time capsule of your life in the moment? Or do you feel like you're going back in time and picking up moments to throw into the current project you're working on too?
I think they're definitely a moment in time. You capture it, and I can't tell you what the next project is going to sound like. I think I have 5 or 6 years on this deal with Capitol. I don't know. I have to look. But that said, that means a lot more music is coming, and I can't tell you what the next album EP is going to look like, but I can't imagine it would be the exact same thing. I think it's going to be a progression,
Of course, yeah.
And another snapshot in time. And these songs, Wildfire, I'm Still Breathing, were written, some of them over a year ago, and are just now seeing the light of day. So if I were writing songs today, and I do have some writing sessions on the books, I'd imagine that it's just going to be another snapshot in time, and the things that I feel like writing about in this moment today are probably quite different than the stuff that just came out on that EP. So I'm excited for the natural, organic progression of the music.
Yeah, because I feel like also just like as an artist, there's always new inspirations that you're going to pick up on your daily, and you're just going to keep writing them down. And then the next session you go into for the next project, you're just going to be like, oh, okay, like this is not even the same to what you were, or what headspace you were in the previous session for that previous album or EP too. So totally. I think that's going to be super exciting.
Yeah. And I just feel like, regarding the whole snapshot in time thing, life changes. There are seasons to life. and you may not be in the same place mentally or even physically that you were just a year ago. So, I feel like so many changes are constantly happening in my life. Now I'm on tour, and I haven't been home as often. I have stuff I want to write about that, some of the stuff I'm going through, whether good or bad. So I think just the natural progression and those seasons of life and how they change really are always going to lead to a different song that's being written.
Yeah, well, nobody expected a pandemic to happen in the last 2 years, and let alone see that it's still going on right now too, is crazy.
Be over.
I need it to be over soon too.
We all are.
The reason why I created this podcast was to share stories about how music has impacted people in their own ways across so many different like walks of life and everything. How do you think music has impacted your life in your own way?
I think the music that I'm listening to or that I somehow stumble across actually informs my songwriting. Because I feel like with any other industry, the music industry being what it is, I think a lot of artists are listening to other artists. A lot of writers are, picking up other writers' songs and techniques. So I think with that, the music industry also as an industry itself kind of organically changes over time. Like, for instance, this whole 80s renaissance of music where you're hearing a lot of synths. I think like 070 Shake, Guilty Conscience, where it's like super 80s synthy, or Anyone by Justin Bieber, where it's almost like feels like Toto or some kind of 80s vibe. So I'm like, the industry kind of progresses by itself. And I think as just an active songwriter and musician myself participating in that, I pick up, certain things that I like that other writers are doing, or that I hear other artists are doing, always keeping it original, but just saying that, what you hear definitely influences and informs the kind of music that you feel people are responding to or that is relevant, while still keeping originality.
That's so interesting. Yeah, because I feel like we were talking to another artist the other day, and we were saying how nobody has one specific genre anymore. Everyone is kind of a blend of everything at this point, and nobody can just define themselves as just like, I'm only like a pop artist at this point, or I'm only like a country artist. Like, you're pretty much everything at this point.
So true. Yeah, I don't think labels are necessary. I think, it's really just make the music that you want to make. And if you're listening to music, if you're a fan or a listener, then listen to the music that you like. Don't focus so much on, labels or you know what I mean? What is this music really in essence of its genre? Oh, well, is it this? Okay, well, I can't listen to it if it's that. No, just, you know what I mean? Listen to the music that you want to listen to and that fulfills you, gives you joy.
Yeah, that was another topic that we talked about before too on the show. It was that sometimes people are a little bit scared to admit that they listen to this music or that music, because then it kind of cookie cuts them or defines them and sort of what genre that they enjoy. And then you're kind of placed with that sort of like group or fandom per se. And then it's like, we're just all here to enjoy music and hopefully get some sort of escapism or some relatability or understanding of what you're probably going through in the moment.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think, when it comes to putting people in a box or putting the music that you listen to in a box, there's just no benefit to it. There's no real point in doing that. I think a lot of it too is, do you like the artist? Do you like the message that the artist is putting out? I feel like I wouldn't be able to listen to an artist whose voice I didn't necessarily, look up to as a role model or respect. So I think that, even in the music that I choose to listen to, a lot of it is the artist. Do I like the person, as who they are, for making the music that they are making, and do I respect that music? I think it's important,
I totally get that. Yeah. I guess take me back to your earliest memory of music. When did you first pick up, what was the first instrument that you played?
For me, it was just vocals. I just
Oh wow.
always remember singing around the house. So I guess if that's an instrument, it's just,
Yeah.
I just always felt like I had really good control of my voice
Mm.
whenever I did decide to use it. Uh, and that I always knew what sounded good as I was singing it. So I feel like, now that I have a career in music, it kind of, it gives me freedom to mess around with ad libs or, certain sounds that, or certain registers, tones that I can throw into a song to kind of match the message. A really technical way of thinking of vocals, but that's kind of how it's been. And then not to mention, I did take a few guitar lessons and piano lessons with teachers and on YouTube. So if I really wanted to, I could play guitar and piano on stage. But for me personally, I just love being able to move around, be mobile with the mic in
Yeah.
my hand, and having like a band back me up. It gives me more freedom to perform, I think, because, if you are trying to perform, of course you can do that by playing keyboard or guitar, but it does kind of make you a bit stagnant.
Yeah.
And I'm also a big fan of, like choreography and stuff, because I do know how to move. I do know how to dance. So
Nice.
if I ever had like a produced show, then I would probably just try to move around as much as possible to keep the inertia going, as opposed to staying stagnant for too long with a guitar or piano.
Oh,
But
we're fully expecting a Kevin Quinn tour at some point sooner than later.
hey, I love it.
Headliner.
Yeah, I may be going on a short tour in the fall that I'm now getting rumblings of. But I think that'll be a few markets, maybe 5 or 6. Some of the super fan markets of those who have, been responding well to Winter Jam, and so there will be an opportunity for that, and probably not too far off in the distant future.
That's so exciting. I also always am questioning people who play guitar because they make it look so easy, but it's so difficult, and I don't understand how people make it like, I don't know. They just play it as if it's literally nothing.
Hey, I'm no Jimi Hendrix. That's the other thing. Like, there are certain, yeah, John Mayer. I got a John Mayer poster in
Oh
my
my
living
goodness.
room. But like 2 guys right there that just rock out on guitar, and I'm like,
It's
how do you?
insane.
Yeah, how do you even know how to play the instrument like that? Um, it's weird. Like it's
Yeah.
almost too good in a way that seems kind of genius. If you've ever listened to like Jimi Hendrix or John Mayer stuff, it's
It
almost like
sounds like
they speak through their guitar. You know
I
what I
was
mean?
just gonna say the exact same thing. It sounds like the guitar is speaking, and I don't know how you manipulate an instrument like that. It is
Yeah,
so
like in the
insane.
same way, an artist may do vocal ad libs or, change their tone. They do that same thing through their guitar. And I just think that's the coolest thing. I could never do that, if I'm being honest. That's why I don't play guitar on stage. I could carry a rhythm, but I am no Jimi Hendrix whatsoever. So
Oh my goodness. Where do you want to see yourself grow as an artist in the next couple of years?
for me, I would feel so much accomplishment and fulfillment to have my own arena tour. I think that's a goal. I don't think that's a goal that's going to happen overnight, but within the next 3 or 4 years or so, if I could do that, I'd be very happy and grateful. I keep thinking, as I do this Winter Jam tour, and there's just all these fans in the arena, and all of them who are turning out to come see all these great, talented artists and acts play. I always scope out that group of 2 young people over there, or that couple in their 30s that is really enjoying my music and is on a date night. I pick these people out in the crowd each show, and I'm like, okay, I need an arena full of your type. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because they're just the ones who are getting it and understanding the music and vibing with it. So I think down the line, 3, 4 years, if I can successfully grab those people and put them on an arena room together, that'd be a huge dream come true for me.
That's amazing. We're going to be here to support and watch that journey because, yeah, your music is amazing. Let's do a quick rapid fire.
Okay.
What is your go-to karaoke song?
Anything by John Mayer.
Your favorite Disney ride?
Incredicoaster at Disneyland.
That's a good one.
B cut, but a good one.
Your go-to instrument, which, I mean,
Probably piano over guitar.
Ooh,
Yeah.
really nice. Your ideal vacation?
Um, I I would love to go to Scandinavia. That's actually high on my list.
Oh, whoa.
I had a layover in Stockholm once, but that's the closest I've gotten. Particularly Finland, like Helsinki, Finland, or the Arctic Circle. See the
That's so
Northern
cool.
Lights, stay in like one of those igloo hotels. That's pretty high on my list right now.
That is so cool. Next person you want to see live?
Um, Bon Iver, which I don't know if you would expect, but I love Bon Iver.
I've heard good things.
I guess
I've heard good things.
Yeah, I saw him in concert like 3 or 4 years ago at the Hollywood Bowl, and I haven't seen him since. So I'd love to see Justin Vernon back out on stage.
Yeah. And your dream collab?
Maybe Ed Sheeran. I feel like we could
Ooh.
maybe get something cool together, or Taylor
Yeah.
Swift. I
Yeah,
don't know.
I could see it.
Or Lana Del Rey if I wanted to do something super, vibey.
That is a vibe. Yeah.
Or Tori Kelly. She kind of gets the whole inspirational, she's a super positive force. I'd love to do that. Or my buddy Andy Mineo, who I toured with in 2020, kind of like a Christian rap kind of vibe. Chance the Rapper.
Oh, interesting.
Okay, now I'm just naming too many people. I have too many. I have too many people on my list. Yeah.
Okay, and every single week we ask our guests to give us 3 songs that you think people should listen to right now.
God Is by Kanye West. Unsung Hero by For King and Country, which my girlfriend showed me last night, and I really liked that song. Just came out. Or I Feel It by John Bellion featuring Burna Boy for a good time.
Sounds like a good 3 songs. And my 3 songs for this week, well, because we have an artist, listen to Kevin Quinn's music. It's About Time, the whole EP. I think there's 5 tracks on there. You can listen to all of those. So I mean, like, technically that's more than 3 tracks given already. But let me see. Let's put a bonus one. Let me pull up the Spotify.
Yeah, I realize my rapid fire is very slow. Like, all right, rapid fire. Let me take 30 seconds to slowly articulate.
Griff is an artist that I've got my eye on. Head on Fire.
Oh, yeah.
She's released a song with Singrid, and that song is a bop right now that I am jamming to.
Save that on Apple Music.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Kevin, for coming on to the Hangout and hanging out.
Yeah.
It was such a fun time. I probably could talk to you for like another couple hours about pretty much everything. But you're welcome to come back on the show to talk about anything. And whenever you go on tour again too, if you come to Vancouver, let's hang out in person.
I'm trying to get to Rogers. Oh yeah.
Oh yes.
I saw Fleetwood Mac in Vancouver, and that was awesome.
I wanted to go to that show so badly. My parents went without me, and I didn't get to go.
Yeah, you missed out. What can I say?
I know. I know.
But thank you so much for having me, Syd. I really appreciate you taking the time to chat, and yeah, I'd love to come back.
Yay. Thank you guys so much for watching and listening to this week's episode of The Hangout. That was Kevin Quinn. Thanks for hanging out. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Leave us a comment and review on our YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you're tuning in from. Make sure to like and subscribe as well so you know when new episodes come out. I would also really appreciate it. You can follow us along on all of our socials at The Hangout CA. That's it for now. We'll see you next week.